Well, there we go. The 2024-2025 free agency has officially began.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here on YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, we appreciate if you goes and drop a subscription on the YouTube. It'll keep you up to date with live streams, shorts, videos, the podcast, everything. It's all available right there on the YouTube as well. So make sure you guys go and drop the sub over there anyway. Couple other things. Discord link in the description. You want to talk Blue Jays with us at any point, join that Discord. You can message us in there. We're always available, always on our phones. And we'll make sure we keep checking all that as well. As you can tell, because we look like 12-year-old boys, we are doing Movember. We're, growing it all out. So if you can, again, please do so. It is for a good cause. Go make a donation. We see that a lot of you guys watch these videos. If you have $5 extra floating around, whatever it is, make sure you guys go and donate that. This is a really good cause. We want to try to do what we can to get this out there. So make sure you go hit that link is in the description as well. Please click it. It does make a difference. A lot to get into today. Vlad, just a ton of Jays news, like Jays transactions. We got Silver Slugger nominations. And of course, the start of free agency we got to get into as well. Just chat a little bit about that. Nothing too crazy. We're not going to overload you guys with information in the free agency. It is day one. A lot of time left to happen. But Carter, let's start off with the Silver Slugger nominations.
We got only one nomination for Silver Sluggers because the Toronto Blue Jays offense as a whole just was not very good for 2024. Again, you got a little bit better in the back half. But when you have players going in and out of the doors, you have prospects kind of coming in halfway through the season, not a lot of opportunity for a lot of Silver Sluggers. But we do have our king, our one guy that made Blue Jays games enjoyable to watch, especially from an offensive perspective. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is one of the nominations for the AL Silver Slugger for first baseman. The other two are Josh Naylor from the Cleveland Guardians and then Carlos Santana from the Minnesota Twins. Three guys that are just more so power bats. Josh Naylor, Carlos Santana, really more so selling out for that power bat, those home runs, not as high of averages. And then you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. kind of did everything really well. You look at the average, you look at contact, you look at power, you look at any sort of offensive statistic for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and it looked pretty good for him. So out of these three candidates, I think it's fairly obvious for us, at least, maybe a little bit of bias going into this, but really it's just when you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, you can look at the tape, whatever it is. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. easily clears both Carlos Santana and Josh Naylor. We look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a 323 average, 30 home runs, 103 RBIs. A 940 OPS. The OPS is really where Vladimir Guerrero Jr. clears these guys. You look at a guy like Josh Naylor. This would be my number two for the Silver Slugger. 243 average, 31 home runs, 108 RBIs, an OPS of 776. So Josh Naylor had a really good start of the season. Fell off a little bit towards the end, and I don't think he had a very good month of September. And then the playoffs didn't really show up either. But obviously, when you look at the Silver Slugger award, you can't really value the playoffs because then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wouldn't even really be in the running. And then you look at Carlos Santana, a 238 average, an OPS of 748, 71 home runs, 71 RBIs, 23 home runs. You look at the stats. Again, I said it before, you watch the tape. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. should be your Silver Slugger for the AL.
Yeah, man. I mean, it should be just, eye test too. Like, I don't think this is a crazy one that you really, sometimes it's close. Sometimes you watch the games and you're like, wow, both these guys look really good. And then you take a look at the numbers and stuff's closer. I think this one's pretty cut and dry that this is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, posted a 6.2 WAR on the year, which is just fantastic for Vlad. I mean, it's sort of what you want to see out of him. He was the player I think that they wanted to see. His only better year, of course, was 2021 when he posted a 6.7, but it's not far off. For a guy like Vladimir Guerrero who had the season he did, and, was still looked at as, not at his best when, is fair when he posted the season like 2021. But at the end of the day, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I think above and beyond wins this award. I mean, we always talked about the debate of, is he a top 3 hitter in the AL? And I think that that's very possible. I mean, the debate becomes, I think, when you get into the 2, 3, 4 spot. I mean, I think Aaron Judge has to be number 1, but we've had that discussion before. And so I don't think that this is even a question. I think that this is a pretty cut and dry answer.
Yeah, there's some other ones that are a little bit closer. Like we have a Bobby Witt, Corey Seager, and Gunnar Henderson. I think it's Bobby Witt, but could be some arguments there. You look at the outfielders, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Santander's over there as well. But when you look at first base, I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. led the MLB with 21 3-hit games. That's a stat from Blue Jays Muse. Absolutely insane. Just a guy that literally carried the Toronto Blue Jays offense with not a lot of players to hide behind in that lineup. They could definitely pitch around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if you walked Vladdy. Not a lot of teams are going to be worried about anyone else in the lineup driving him in. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to break the news early. Congratulations to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for winning the Silver Slugger Award for AL first baseman. Again, not a lot went well for the Toronto Blue Jays, so at least give us this one.
Well, exactly, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it's not a question. And out of a pretty bad season all around for Toronto Blue Jays fans, I think at least at the end of the day, we knew how good Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was. And I think that this is just a little bit of validation that, hey, this guy is worth the money that you're going to have to pay him. Give him the bag, because this is a guy that you can build around for the future, sort of moving forward. And who knows what 2025 has in store for us all. We talk, as we're talking about free agency and everything going on, you got to look at guys that can support Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because he is just the best of the best. He is a top tier, S tier player, and he deserves this award.
Yeah, it would have been nice to sign a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in 2023 when he had the down year. Again, when that moment, it's not as clear, obviously, but I think we could have got a pretty good deal for a guy like Vladdy because he gets these awards, he gets these accolades, and he continues to play and he continues to get better. That price tag keeps going up and up and up. So with us, obviously, on this podcast, we're pretty open and we're on the same page as we want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be a Toronto Blue Jay for his entire life. Don't really care what the check is. Give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. the blank check, and he deserves it. He's done everything and more that Toronto Blue Jays have expected, other than, I guess, the playoff wins. But unfortunately, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not a guy that can carry a team throughout the playoffs when, he can't pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays out of the bullpen. So, again, it's tough for one guy to take the blame for just the Toronto Blue Jays mishaps, unless it's Ross Atkins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll have to, again, we're going to get into free agency and sort of everything around it. But there has been a ton of Jays transactions sort of today or yesterday going into today. So we're going to go over a few of them, talk about them, and sort of what has pushed these decisions to this point. I think it's a great question because, Carter, I know there's one that confuses me as well. But what we'll do is we'll take a quick break now so we can have a little bit more time in this second segment to really dive into some of these transactions before we get into even more free agency talks coming up in the third segment. So we'll be right back. Stick around after this break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Hims. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have time to go to the doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. You can start your online visit today at hims.com/locked-on. That's HIMS.com/locked-on for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/locked-on. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
So a lot of Blue Jays transactions, Carter. I know, to kick off the 2024-2025 free agency, we expected the Blue Jays to come out of the gate hot. And how quickly will Ross Atkins pull the trigger on that first big move? And we'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about that in the third segment. But Carter, let's get into some of these transactions.
Yeah, might as well just start with the first one that was the most surprising that I don't think either of us expected. Henny Cabrera was waived by the Toronto Blue Jays, and he cleared waivers, which is even more insane to me. This was a guy that was our left-handed arm out of the bullpen. He was the guy that we relied on down the stretch, and a guy that was very effective. He's 28 years old. Again, one of the most reliable relievers for a bullpen that, again, was not very good in 2024. Posted a 3.59 ERA over 62.2 innings, 50 strikeouts. And the arbitration is another thing, which is a very surprising thing to me, because you look at a guy like Henny Cabrera, you look at what he brings to the table. If you're going to address this kind of position in free agency, you want a left-hander. Maybe Danny Coulomb, who got released and is in free agency now from the Baltimore Orioles, is an option. But when this arbitration is as low as it is, very surprising move by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, so Henny Cabrera would have made $2.7 million in 2025. Now, the big question to me here, projected. The big question here to me is why. I don't understand, with a guy that you've seen what he can do in a depleted bullpen, why in the world would you let him go? Maybe there's stuff going on that we don't know, but for $2.7 million, I don't necessarily know that this is the best time to be pulling guys out of the bullpen that are good pieces. These are guys that you're going to need to use and need to have, because like we always talk about, the bullpen is a diamond in the rough. Hopefully players show up that weren't expected to play well. Henny Cabrera could have been one of those a little bit stable pieces to build around Jordan Romano, Erik Swanson, and a bunch of these other guys, Chad Green. I mean, you need guys. So why let him go? I just, this is very confusing to me. And I know a lot of fans maybe don't hold Henny Cabrera in high regards, and that's fair. He's been a little up and down, but who isn't right now? Who's out there that's going to be this big piece that you're going to sign for $2.7 million? I just don't, this doesn't really click with me, Carter.
It just feels like we're going backwards instead of forwards. It feels like we're somehow getting worse rather than better. And free agency obviously has just started, but just a surprising move. And again, the conspiracy theories are rounding absolutely wild on Twitter. Henny Cabrera, I'm not going to get too much into it, but not, I guess, the greatest guy out there. Again, there has been some accusations, things like that about Henny Cabrera. But in terms of baseball, again, the Toronto Blue Jays are a team that has historically, if there is anything going on behind the scenes, that they don't really have a huge leash for that. But it's tough to assume, and it's not necessarily fair to assume that Henny Cabrera necessarily did anything wrong, because there's no articles about anything. So again, that's just some conspiracy theorist on Twitter or X, whatever you call it at this point. But yeah, with Henny Cabrera, now you don't have a left-hander out of the bullpen. If you're going to get a guy that's close to what Henny Cabrera did, you're probably paying $5, $6, $7 million on the bright side, on the good side of that. The relievers could go for even more money. And the same thing, as we said, with relievers, is it's very up and down. So Henny Cabrera, maybe he does have a bad season, but I'm relying on the 2.7 projected arbitration Henny Cabrera compared to a guy that we're going to sign in free agency, if we even at this point sign a guy in free agency, to come in and help this bullpen out. Because with left-handers, with the guys that throw with velocity as well, like Henny Cabrera did, sitting with a mid-95 fastball, just, again, showing the emotion on the mound. So for me, it seems like this is more so something with Henny Cabrera. Maybe he didn't want to be with the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe he just wanted a fresh start. This isn't adding up.
I'm with you. I don't, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I'd like to be a fly on the wall in these rooms when these decisions get made, because to me, this is a pretty cut and dry keep this guy. I don't know. You don't want to have to add 1,000 pieces to this bullpen in the offseason and take away from what would be, you want to sign bats as well. So you can't be dumping a ton of money into this bullpen. And I think 2.7 is a fairly reasonable number for Henny Cabrera. I don't think that it's crazy. So at the end of the day, I just don't know where the heads are at of Ross Atkins to make this decision. And I don't know, Carter. I'm a little bit taken aback by this one for sure.
Well, and some of the reasons that these conspiracy theorists are like kind of, gaining some traction on X is because no other team picked up Henny Cabrera as well. How does a guy like this absolutely clear waivers and nobody has any interest in a guy like this who had a very good 2024 season? So there's got to be something going on behind the scenes. Again, I'm not going to be the one to jump on that Henny Cabrera did something bad, but this whole situation just seems fishy for a guy that was very effective in 2024.
Yeah, and no real news around it either, right? It was just, he
just thrown in, waivers. No warning at all.
Nothing, no warning whatsoever. I think that this is pretty strange. Again, me and you never want to be the guys that assume anything. We don't want to put those things out into the world. But it does get you thinking because it doesn't make sense from a Toronto Blue Jays perspective, from a league perspective, from other teams. It just doesn't make a whole ton of sense. And I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to take away from this. I guess we'll have to wait and see if he does get picked up in the next, coming days or months, and who picks him up and at what, how this all shakes out. Again, we only can tell you what we know, and there hasn't been rumors or rumblings. It's just speculation at this point.
See, unless Ross Atkins has someone in AAA, maybe a Connor Cook, maybe something that he's really relying on, who thinks is going to take a huge step for this bullpen. I can't help to think that you're getting worse. We're taking steps back, and now you have another bullpen piece that you're going to have to figure out. I mean, there was more transactions as we'll get into, so maybe he's higher on these type of guys. But again, we'll leave comments, leave your opinions on what you guys think about this Genesis Cabrera transaction. Just completely surprised us. We're interested to see what your thoughts are. Again, maybe this is a guy that Ross Atkins is high on, but we'll get into this. Michael Peterson has been claimed off waivers by the Toronto Blue Jays from the Miami Marlins. The 30-year-old made his MLB debut in 2024 for the Dodgers before being claimed off waivers by Miami. He threw 19.2 innings between two clubs, a 5.95 ERA, 14 strikeouts, 11 walks. I don't know a ton about this guy, but again, when I look at these face value stats, again, not really diving too much into this, it being the first day of free agency, doesn't really look like a guy that you're going to want to rely on for the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. So we look at some of these other transactions as we'll get into. Nothing as big as the Henny Cabrera one, and that's the problem because this makes the team worse and not better. But do you have anything to add on Michael Peterson?
No, not a whole lot. I don't know a ton about him, and I'm not going to pretend I do. I look at the stats and I see what I see, and you're right. This just doesn't push the needle. And don't get me wrong, it's the first day. There's a long free agency left, and maybe there are moves in play that obviously we don't know about. But from a day one standpoint, the Blue Jays are down after one.
Well, and back to the Genesis Cabrera thing, like the reason that, again, I'm pulling up the Sportsnet article here, it's because the Toronto Blue Jays did have to make some moves. They did have to cut down their 40-man roster. It's just, why was it Genesis Cabrera? That's going to be the biggest question with that. But now the Toronto Blue Jays do have 40 out of 40 players on their roster. So they will be good for the start of the season. But as for some more transactions, Luis Fries has cleared waivers and now is a free agent. He wasn't good. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. That's kind of where I'm going to leave that one. This one, again, not a huge transaction, but a one that I guess kind of hurts the heart a little bit because this guy was tenured for the Toronto Blue Jays for a very long time. Luis De Los Santos was placed on waivers and was claimed by the New York Mets. We saw a little bit of De Los Santos through the end of 2024, never really had a prominent role. One of those guys that, you just don't really have the room for him. You have all these infield prospects. You got Will Wagner's, you got your David Schneiders, you got your Ernie Clements, you got some of these guys that just have higher upside than Luis De Los Santos. It sort of reminds me of the Otto Lopez situation from a little bit back from when he went to the Miami Marlins, just giving this guy more of an opportunity to go play regular time for an MLB club.
Yeah, and I don't think we saw anything completely outstanding either in the sense that, he was going to be a difference maker on this team. So at the end of the day, I mean, the Blue Jays have to do what they're going to do. This one wasn't a big shock for me. I know me and you have had these conversations about him and would he, stick around? And both of our answers were probably not. So it is what it is. This one, it sucks to see, but I'm not heartbroken about this either.
And other than that, just a bunch of people getting reinstated for the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, nothing too much here. Alek Manoah was reinstated from the 60-day injured list. Jordan Romano reinstated as well. Daulton Varsho, which I was a little bit surprised about. Maybe that means his surgery went well and he's going to trend for a spring training to be available for spring training. And then Will Wagner, another guy that was reinstated. Again, it's the start of free agency. There's months before any sort of baseball is played, before any of these players report. So, the main thing with these injuries is just you don't want setbacks, and we haven't got any setbacks, so that is a good thing for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I think we saw the timetable for a lot of them, and as long as things go according to plans, I think they're set up for having a lot of these guys return and be great pieces right from the start of the season. And that's what you got to hope for because the Blue Jays can't take any setbacks right now. And I hate to say that because you want guys to make sure that they're healed properly and everything like that, but one major injury to this team, and right now it's looking tough. So they have to stay off the IR and just hopefully everything goes well.
Yeah, it's with a team that's, struggling to get anything really going. If you have some of your regulars that are going to get injured that aren't necessarily as good as some other teams' regulars, you're going to be starting off the season on the wrong foot for a team that has a ton to do in this free agency. But we went over some transactions. I said that Henry Cabrera was the biggest one. We have some other transactions that might even be bigger than that. So we got just some news, some info, some stuff that has been going around around the league and with the Toronto Blue Jays. So we'll get into that after this short break.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'm telling you guys, Carter can attest to this, I have been winning a ton on FanDuel on the NFL picks. To me, I feel like, again, it's the easiest. I'm just throwing it out there. I've been doing my most winning on the NFL. So make sure you guys go get your picks in. Make sure you get that 150 bonus bets. Bonus bets are huge. It's free money for you to try to, throw some big ones together and pray you can get some big wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Here, Braden, I'm gonna lead this one off here. I'm just gonna cut you off like I've just been accustomed to a little bit on this last couple weeks of podcasts. You keep yapping all the time. We said big transactions. We had our awards obviously for 2024. This might already be transaction of the year right here. The biggest move, debatably of the offseason. Ernie Clement and Spencer Horwitz have changed their numbers. It's massive news from the Toronto Blue Jays camp. Ernie Clement going from number 28 to number 22. Spencer Horwitz going from number 48 to number 3. You taking anything away from this?
Well, Carter, this is massive. This is absolutely massive. No, I'm not taking anything away from this. I mean, weird, cool. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I know numbers mean something to each player specifically. For a lot of guys, for some guys, they don't care. I know for a lot of players, it's like a ritual thing. You grow up with the same number, you wear it. I mean, Carter, I'm going to ask you sort of whatever, if you want to call this a little question of the day or something, there it is. Favorite number to wear, why, and does it depend on the sport?
Favorite number for me in baseball definitely depends on the sport. I'll lead off with that. I'm not going to pull up as this number and say for football or for hockey, things like that. The number I always roll to for some reason, I don't have any backstory to it at all. I think it was normally because I wanted to be number 24, just because 2-4, just because maybe I'm a little bit of a degenerate, but I usually go to 25. And I've had that throughout a lot of my baseball career. Now that we play slow pitch, I am also number 25, if that means anything to the viewers out there. But yeah, definitely depends on the sport because, again, I'm not going as number 25 in hockey. Again, that's not as crazy, but 25 in football, especially for I grew up playing slot back for the people from Canada, just wide receiver with a little bit of a run up, I guess, for the people from the States. But yeah, definitely dependent on the sport. But yeah, I go with number 25. And I know for sure which number that you normally go with for most things, but let the viewers know.
Yeah, so sort of a connection to 25 for me is in my grade 9 year of high school baseball. I was wearing 25 because a veteran had my number. And I know you took that number then from me when I switched to 5. So sort of weird connection there that, goes back a couple of years, which is actually strange now that we're here. But no, I wear number 5. 5 I've worn my entire life, right from when I was a kid. It was my mom's number. She wore that when she played ball throughout all of her sports as well. So I wear 5 in everything. Doesn't matter, hockey, baseball, volleyball, basketball, hockey, whatever it is. 5 is my number. My brother wears number 12. My dad wore 12 all his life playing sports. So he wears that. And now a hilarious thing, my cousins, one of them wears 5 because I wore 5, and one of them wears 12 because Jarvis wore 5 or 12. So big family connection between these numbers, I guess. I don't know. It's just strange, but hilarious. So I know how all these numbers sort of mean something to everybody, or they don't, but you sort of get attached to one. I know a couple of guys. I know one guy that wears 9 consistently. Like that's his number. He only wears 9. So I don't know. Sort of funny. I don't know.
Yeah, just not the only people, I guess, just in the family that are looking up to Brandon Wasco. Just obviously a big dog, as pronounced on this podcast. But just going back to the Ernie Clement and the Spencer Horwitz thing, you think any of this is like superstition? Do you think it's, oh, this season, again, for Ernie Clement and Spencer Horwitz had a pretty good season, actually, for those two players. But in totality, Toronto Blue Jays, really bad season 2024, one of the worst seasons of recent memory. Is this any sort of superstition for these two players?
I feel like no, not for these two guys, but I do know that baseball is a very superstitious thing, right? The way that you go up to the plate, your approach, it's little things that you do. I mean, again, I talk about it. I would always give the plate like a tap on each far corner, just so in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I know where the outside corner is now, right? And it's just a mental thing. Vlad right in the sand, or the haircut. I mean, a lot of this stuff does have a little bit of superstition to it. Do I necessarily think that these two guys changing their number after 2 good seasons? I don't think so. I think that that's a little weird, but maybe it's some guys have left when they had their numbers. Now they want their numbers back, something like that. That's what I could see more so.
Yeah, I don't really see it as much either. I think it's probably just they prefer to have their numbers the way they are. The Ernie Clement one, 28 to 22, not the biggest switch. Kind of I want a backstory on why Spencer Horwitz went from 48 to 3. It's kind of a weird jump for me, just for numbers that are completely different, especially the way they look on a jersey. So I got a couple more things here. I just wanted to go over the 13 players from Jeff Passan that got a qualifying offer for this free agency. That is Juan Soto, not surprised, qualifying on from the New York Yankees. Corbin Burns from the Orioles. Alex Bregman from the Astros. That's another one that will affect the Blue Jays. Max Fried from the Braves. Willie Adames, another one that might affect the Toronto Blue Jays. For the Brewers, Pete Alonso, sort of will matter for the Blue Jays. Don't really see that one as much happening. Santander from the Orioles. Teo from the Dodgers. Votto from Boston, another guy that the Toronto Blue Jays have been linked to. Christian Walker from the D-backs. Sean Manoah from the Mets. Luis Severino from the Mets. And then Nick Martinez from the Cincinnati Reds. None of these surprise me whatsoever. Usually the qualifying offer is significantly less than what they would get if they did go to free agency. I guess the big ones here are just the Bregmans, the Sotos, and the Santanders, the ones that we've been talking about, at least on this podcast.
Yeah, man, I don't think this shocks anybody. You know that these are going to come in. Will any of them re-sign there? I think Teo, we had a conversation about him. I think he goes back to the Dodgers. I don't think there's any question there.
He said he's preferred, the Dodgers are his preferred landing location as well.
Absolutely. And again, this is all talk until it's pen to paper. Don't believe anything you hear, because there is a lot of speculation that goes on. A lot of these deals take time because guys want to hear out and weigh their options. So I think I wouldn't be shocked if we don't hear anything super crazy on a lot of these guys this week. I think you're probably looking at some bigger things early next week is probably when things are going to start to drop. I would just be wary of anything you're reading online. Anybody telling you anything. We've all been down this road before as Blue Jays fans. So just hold your horses, pump the brakes until there's an official statement. We will 100% tell you if something is 100% true or not on this podcast. We will not officially announce anything until we have confirmation from the guys that probably know these inside scoops a little bit better than us. So again, what am I taking away from this at the end of the day? Not much. It is what it is.
Yeah, we'll make sure that there's multiple sources, and then maybe John Morosi might be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. But
no, I don't trust a thing that guy says.
We'll have to see, obviously, when these articles do come out. The last thing for me I have for this episode is just, free agency's open. So technically the transactions could start flooding in. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's like an IKF level signing. It actually worked out pretty well for us. I don't care if it's like a Daniel Vogelback. I want something. I'm addicted to the transactions. I'm going to find a way to spin on this into being a very good thing for the Toronto Blue Jays, no matter who it is.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You got to have a little hope. I can't stand when fans go into a season with no hope. I mean, even if it's delusional, go into it with a little bit of hope and try to enjoy some baseball while you have it. And then, when things start taking a turn for the worse, then fine, jump ship or lose your mind on Twitter. Whatever. But at least start the season with a little bit of something.
See, I can't agree with that because you don't know what it's like to be a Carolina Panthers fan.
No, I don't.
You don't know what that's like. I had zero hope going into the season, and for good reason if you guys are obviously watching the NFL. But hey, Bryce Young got to win against the Saints. Not really taking much away from that either. But just bring on the transactions. Obviously, we want the big dogs like the Juan Sotos, the Santanders, the Bregmans, the Adameses, whatever it is. But honestly, I'll take anyone. I don't care who it is. Give me something. But give me a bullpen arm. Give me Give me a AAA guy. I don't care what it is. Give me all the transactions.
I agree, man. I can't wait. As always, appreciate all you guys listening, watching, doing whatever, interacting with us when it comes to Blue Jay stuff. It's going to be a very fun offseason. I think we can all see that. So make sure you guys stay tuned here to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making us your first listen. If you want to find a second listen, go check out Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan. Sully, our guy, runs a great show. He'll have all the league-wide big transactions covered there too. But, we'll try to keep you guys up to date as well a little bit just on some league-wide stuff because it does matter to us, right? Yes, we're the Blue Jays podcast, but if other teams are making crazy moves, it's probably affecting us. As always, appreciate you guys doing everything that you've been doing. Make sure you go check out that Movember link in the description. If you can donate anything, would really appreciate it. We're trying to, do a good thing here. So hopefully you guys can jump on board with us and join the club. If you guys are doing Movember, let us know. Send us, your link, your page, whatever you want to do. Let us know that you're, hopping on this bandwagon as well. As always, thanks a bunch. Talk to you tomorrow.